For my diversity field experience, I chose to attend a NAMI family support group. I also interviewed one person who is a male, 25 years old, with borderline personality disorder. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It started as a small group of families gathered around a kitchen table in 1979. It contains hundreds of local affiliates, state organizations, and volunteers nationwide. They raise awareness as well as provide support and education not previously available to those struggling with mental illness as well as their families. NAMI Family Support Group is a peer-led support group. It's free of cost and for adults whose loved ones suffer with mental illness. People who are 18 years of older are free to attend. It is led by family members of individuals living with mental illness. The NAMI meeting for families in Southeast Minnesota meets bi-weekly. They do not preach specific medical therapy or medication as a means to an end for the mental illness. Anything that is said during these meetings is confidential. My experience with NAMI, I attended a very small family support group where there was only one other attendee as well as the group leader. The staff was very knowledgeable and able to help teach coping skills as well as an introduction to mental illness. The staff was able to relate on a personal level as they also have someone who in their family who suffers with mental illness. Some of the resources I learned about in the family support group was one-on-one family support. You are able to go and meet with a peer counselor one-on-one with your family to learn more coping skills as well as how to grow a relationship with your family members suffering with mental illness. They also have peer support for those suffering with mental illness if they so choose. Some of the following terms I learned were lack of insight, emotional dysregulation, emotion as a language, rational versus irrational, as well as isolation. The lack of insight was something he spoke of as people with mental illness don't always see where the other person is coming from or how they're feeling. They lack the ability to understand this insight. People with mental illness, especially borderline personality disorder, often have emotional dysregulation. This is where their emotions function in a roller coaster effect, going from happy to sad to happy. He also spoke about emotion as a language. Being able to speak emotion of one person is different from another, so being able to understand how someone else is feeling may not be as easy for everyone. Also, having a rational conversation with someone struggling with mental illness may not be as cold cut as it might be with another person. They don't always understand rational versus irrational decisions as easy as someone who is struggling less might. People with mental illness also struggle with isolation, which can cause a further decline in their mental health. The NAMI definition of borderline personality disorder. BPD is characterized by difficulties in regulating emotion. Severe unstable mood swings, impulsivity and instability, poor self-image, and stormy personal relationships. It is estimated that 1.6% of the population has borderline personality disorder, but this percentage may be as high as 5.9%. Some of the causes are genetics, environmental factors such as traumatic events in the past, as well as the way the brain functions. These are the questions I interviewed the man who is 25 years old. I'll give you a minute to read these. As I go through and answer with the interview answers he gave me, I want you to pause at the beginning and read the question, and then I will continue with his answer. It is slightly difficult to pinpoint when it became a true problem to me, but I know certain things have always made situations difficult. I remember being young as 6 or 7 just trying to pick out a new pair of shoes, but I never thought I had the right ones. I would wander around forever trying to find the perfect pair. Like most of us, I was special and I felt that I was special and wanted to prove myself. So as I got older and felt less special, I was confused, and the easiest thing to do was just be sad. The first time I can remember being really sad was between 4th and 6th grade. High school, though, was probably when the worst came out. Freshman year, I started to cut myself here and there and would hide my wounds with little bands. I had just heard about cutting a lot because of my own friend group as well as books. I never liked it though and always tried to hide it. I don't really know. To really answer the question though, high school is when it became a real struggle. There was one time I sliced up both of my arms with a razor and just laid outside on the patio. I know it was a cry for attention, but I honestly thought I would die for a brief minute. I had never seen that much blood in my life. My brother found me, and of course I was brought to the ER, which ended up with a nice, long, generous visit. I think that I knew in the moment I had a problem, but didn't know how to handle it. I am aware that certain things have always held me back in life, so I honestly could not give an accurate time when I started to struggle with mental illness. I have felt alone for a long time, but I know that I have others who love and support me. If anything, everyone else who loved me struggled with my mental illness before I did. I just really do not know. My biggest challenge so far has been trying to find my own personal cure. I've tried many different pills and medications to hope they would fix me, but it was never what I wanted. They did what they were supposed to because they made me feel more stable, but I also felt more numb and unlike myself. I have found more natural ways to keep my mind steady, but that takes work too, so I still struggle with that at times. Trying to fix myself has been my biggest struggle so far because I am stubborn and believe that I can truly do it myself. My mom, of course, has always been a guide, the greatest guide of all. She was always there for me if I really needed her and was usually my favorite adult influence growing up. There were also therapies that were able to help. I honestly believe that staying away from all mind-altering substances is one of the many things that will help me cope better with my mental illness. Some of the coping things I do on a daily basis are exercise, meditation, and a healthy diet. I have just found more plants and beans in my diet gives me more energy and helps me keep my brain clear, so I am trying a vegan type diet. If I don't practice these things most days of the week, I start to decline. One of the biggest things I have learned is that a lot of other people struggle with the same issues I do. However, it seems as if most people don't even realize they deal with it. Ignorance is bliss. I have also learned that a lot of people are super sensitive when it comes to mental health issues, so I try not to talk about it unless someone initiates a conversation. It can be really tedious to struggle with mental illness. I have learned that we are only in the beginning of understanding everything about mental illness, and for all we know, learning more about it could be what causes more mental illness. I don't know, he said. He just wishes that he could explain himself and how he feels without sounding completely crazy. It kind of peaked when I was an adolescent, and I don't really know how to deal with it. I cut class a lot and ended up messing my high school years. I didn't know how to handle all of the emotions and feelings, so I pushed a lot of people away. I spent a lot of time in treatment facilities, so I feel like I missed a lot of my youth, but I still got enough of it. It made my adolescent years confusing, and I almost feel like they never happened. What I take away from attending this family meeting, as well as speaking with the 25-year-old, is that talking helps. Hiding mental illnesses, as well as pretending people don't suffer with them, does nothing but make people feel ashamed. I also feel like family members struggling with it, they have to help themselves first and learn coping mechanisms before they can start to build that relationship and help their family members struggling with mental illness cope as well. We all communicate differently through words, emotions, and our actions. By being able to understand the different ways people do this, we are able to better cope and help each other feel better. And celebrating the positives, no matter what, is always the best thing to do. People struggling with mental illness may take littler steps, but the more we celebrate the little steps, it helps celebrate the more positives, and that way they are able to succeed more in life. And I know, thank you.